We've got a major storm coming in. So what I want to do is I want to get this boat covered up. So what I did yesterday was I ran to Home Depot and I bought this pile of lumber here. That pile of lumber, it's got a lot of warped and bad looking pieces in it. It's from what Home Depot calls their culled lumber rack. And culled lumber is a great place to go if you've got a very non-critical project that you need wood for, because that pile of lumber right there came up to $24 and change. So for under 25 bucks, I got quite a few pieces there. There's two pieces in there that are not culled lumber. That's a 16-foot 2x4. That's going to be my ridge pole going across the top. And this rough sawn board right here, because they didn't have anything. What do you call it? Utility grade 1x, which is 3/4 inches thick. They didn't have any of those, so I grabbed one of those. Everything else there, these 2x8s, long ones, those were $4 a piece. I get a weird thing, it's $4.04. I don't know why. And there's a pressure treated one in there, some other stuff. So anyways, we're going to take that pile of wood right there. We're going to make a frame. And then I went to Harbor Freight, and I got a Harbor Freight tarp, which even Harbor Freight priced. The size tarp that I got was like $60. It actually was 60 something bucks, but then it rang up with a coupon discount for $49 and change. So for about 75 bucks, I should be able to make a decent shelter for this thing for the winter. I don't even know how I'm going to build it yet. When I'm picking out the wood, I'm just kind of thinking about things in my head. Hopefully we got what I need to put this together, but we'll see. All right, so I got two choices on this boat shelter project. I can either drag a generator over there and go back and forth for all the tools that I tend to forget, and build it right there where I'm going to park it for the winter, back there. Or I can tow the boat up to the house, build all the components of the shelter to near completion, or completion other than putting the tarp over it, you know, where I have my extension cord, my power tools, and quick access to the tools, and then just bring it back over there and tarp it. So I think I'm going to go with that, but I'm going to move it. So the Dodge Ram, it's 32 degrees out. I haven't had it plugged into the block heater, so we could just forget about starting that. But let's see if the trusty Ford, the ATV, well, quite frankly, the ATV probably could roll the thing, but I think the tongue weight would be so high that I'd be pulling wheelies. So let's not talk about that, okay? I get enough grief as it is. All right, let's see. Cold start on the Ford 1920, the Shibura of Japan tractor. Now, I have no reason to believe that if I turn this, it's going to actually crank. Oh, wow, so close. All right, so I actually don't know if this has a preheater on it. I noticed that there's a spring-loaded position to the key switch reverse, and I don't know, for some reason memory makes me think that that's a preheat. So let's just see what happens, if that makes any difference. It's cranking so slow though, I really don't hold out much hope for it to start. I did a cold start video a little while ago on the Oliver 770, and the general consensus from that video was that I am not holding the preheat button on that thing anywhere near long enough. So I'm going to heed that advice and do this a little longer. Okay, so it's been a little longer, if this is even doing anything. Yeah, no, battery's too low. All right, just for giggles, we'll see if we can move this thing with the Suzuki Eiger. The Eiger should have more than enough power, and we can put it in four-wheel drive if necessary. My only concern is if the tongue weight's going to be too much, but hey, the only way to find out really is to put it on there.
Yeah, I was going right the first time.
Yeah, all right. All right, we're putting the weight on it.
Not going anywhere.
Is that wheel off the ground? Yeah, that's the problem. It's this is too low. Huh. All right, so what we did was we raised that back up, and we got some lumber underneath the rear tires, and that'll help us. Well, this should work. Alright, by lifting the rear end of the ATV up, now we got that retracted all the way. There you go. That's good enough. Now pull that pin, pull that handle. There you go. That whole thing will swivel. There you go. Perfect. All right. Now we gotta well, hook these chains up. All right. Flip the lever to four-wheel drive. Let's put it in four-wheel drive. Let's not wait to see if it's gonna slip. All right. Put it in gear. Roll forward off of these boards.
I need you to move that board up there.
Oh yeah. Actually, it wasn't even doing anything any longer. We had rolled it back. Yeah, go ahead. All right, stop. All right, back up.
You want to take that board off the boat?
That's all right. Yeah, now turn and pull forward that way. Go real slow. Put it in low. All right, wood's all loaded up. Yeah, you got it. That's interesting. I've never heard the four-wheeler make that noise before. Go right up to the driveway. All right, now gonna be a lot easier to work on it over here. So here's the tarp that I settled on. This is a 9mm tarp. This is what Harbor Freight considers their heavy-duty reflective. The light-duty tarps, the blue tarps, tend to be light-duty, and they tend to have a mesh that separates when it stretches, and over time it'll just get really lousy. And I've had every blue tarp I've owned has failed. So here's a good example of a blue tarp, and that weave tends to separate over time, stretch out. This one's, you know, this one's been out here quite a few years, so it's actually, I guess for the amount of time and abuse it's taken and the price it cost, it served its purpose. But I don't buy blue ones anymore. It's interesting to me that they show this big picture of the weave on here, because it seems like the better quality the tarp is, almost the less of the weave you can see. This one seems pretty decent. That must be a magnified view of it. So anyways, so this is a 19 foot by 29 foot, and like I said, discounted it was $50. That size tarp at Home Depot, almost the same exact size, was like closer to $90. The next size up from this, I forgot what the dimensions were, but it was like $120 at Harbor Freight. So even with the discount, it would have been still probably about $90 or so. So I didn't want to get something that big. So 29 foot, 19 foot, this should work. I don't need it to come all the way down to the ground on the sides. And at 29 feet, it should be more than long enough. Matter of fact, I've only got a 16 foot 2x4, but I'm thinking I might splice together that other 2x4 I bought and make that whole ridge pole even longer. We'll see. Okay, so my minimum height has to be above that windshield, and I actually want to clear that by enough so that if it does have a problem with sagging, the weight isn't transferred to that windshield. In fact, I'll probably leave that little swing out windshield to get up to the bow. I'll leave that in the open position just for extra measure. But that's where I want to take my first dimension. Alright, so what I've done is I've taken a couple of my 2x4s, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to determine the height. Now I know I wanted to be above this, so I could have been down here. The problem is if I'm down here, then the tarp is going to want to try and bend and go down around this sharp corner on the windshield, which isn't a good idea. So the higher up, the better, within reason. I don't want to go too high up, because then the problem is the width of my tarp when it's folded. If I take the width of my tarp, which is 19 feet, and I divide that by 2, that's 8.5 feet. No, 9.5 feet, 9.5 feet. So that means from this point going down towards the ground, I have 9.5 feet of tarp to deal with. If it doesn't go all the way down to the ground, I'm fine with that. As long as it goes low enough so I don't have to worry about snow being able to blow, or wind and rain being able to blow into under the tarp. So that being said, I got my other 2x4 here just as a temporary, and I can see that if I put it right like this, I can actually make it clear everything. So, and just for good measure, I'm going to just go a little bit higher, and I'm going to just pick that arbitrary spot right there. There's a little nut right there. I can use that as my temporary marker since I don't have a pencil handy. This is going to be a very crude, relatively crude structure. That's just shy of 7 feet, so I'm just going to pick 7 feet. All right, so these 2x8s that I got are actually 14 footers, so this works out pretty well. I can just cut them at 7 feet, and they'll be almost the same height, and they don't have to be the exact same height. Matter of fact, I might even lower the back down some. There's no reason why I have to have this perfectly level. The important thing is I get enough height in the front, and in the back, I've actually got a little bit more clearance I can play with because there's no windshield to deal with. Oh my goodness, that blade's dull. I really need a new blade, but I don't think I have any blades.
You just bought a whole pack.
Yeah, where are they? Are they in the truck?
Probably.
Oh, let's go look for them. So now you can see the purpose of my notches that I cut in these boards. I'm gonna support the 2x4. I want the 2x4 on edge like that because it's stronger. It won't flex as much that way. And that front one there, I'm actually going to be able to probably attach it to, I'm gonna probably screw it right to the side of this drop-in deck that was made here, because that's pretty sturdy. The rear one here, I wanted to take advantage of. There's just enough room behind this seat to put this in here. The drawback to this is that it's tilted back, but I think what I can do is I can put some diagonal bracing up there and actually not have to worry about that moving too much. All right, so I just put the boards up, and then we held the 2x4 and held the 2x4 in the general plane where we wanted to have the tarp running, and I made this mark. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lop off this corner here and here. And what that's going to do for me is that's going to, when the tarp is going to be stretched around this, it's not going to want to be trying to stretch around this sharp corner here. It'll be a more gradual. At least that's the plan. If I have to, I can even prop up the 2x4 in this bird's mouth a little bit, well, it's not really a bird's mouth, in this notch a little bit higher. And we'll go from there. So I'm going to cut this off, and then I'll do the same on this side, and I'll do the same on the other board. Just like in geometry, this is going to be identical to this. See?
Mm-hmm.
So I take this cutoff piece,
You can use it for the other side.
and I use it over here for on this side.
The other way.
Right.
There you go.
Hold on. It's like a, yeah, it's like a puzzle. There we go. I just hold it on here like that.
And then draw the line.
And for a rough estimate like this, it's fine. But I'm gonna back it off just a little bit because the Sharpie is such a thick pencil, or such a thick marker. But that'll be pretty close without doing all of the more complicated measuring. You can actually measure angles with this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is for over here. See?
Yep.
I put this here, I could actually measure the angle of that. That's it. All right, so I want to take advantage of all this lumber that I bought here, so I'm going to start figuring out how I'm going to beef this up. So I'm going to take this last 14 footer that I have, and I'm going to cut this at 8'2", which might be just a little long, but I'm going to use that as a brace up there between the two, and then I'm going to put some cross bracing on so that it doesn't want to, so those two vertical pieces aren't going to want to do this on me. And then I'll start working out what I'm going to do in the front, up in the bow. I think I'm going to extend that pole and maybe actually have it come down to another support, which I'll be able to make with what's left over on here, which should be about just under 5 feet. Actually, it's just under 6 feet. plenty long enough. All right, so I made another vertical support up here in the front, the bow. Of course, it's a shorter one. I did the notch on the top, just like the other ones. Did the relief cuts here to protect the tarp. And this one, put this pad on the bottom here so that the bottom of this board won't be pushing in and putting all the weight on one spot. And to be entirely honest, I actually cut it a little bit too short, so I had to do something anyways. Now I've got to decide, I have to decide how I'm going to treat the end there. I'm probably going to cut that, maybe round over the end, so that as the tarp is pulled down on the sides and the front there won't be a sharp edge that is riding over. I've got the main part of the structure built. Seems pretty sturdy, but I've got a few things I'm going to take care of with just cut some short blocks. For instance, right in here, this 14-footer has such a bad twist that I was only able to put 2 screws in at the top. There's this huge gap here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut a small piece and stick it on here and then screw into the end of it through here. And that'll just stiffen this up a little bit more. All right, ready when you are. Guys, push harder. Look, you're not looking at what you're doing over here. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's still good.
Sure. Oh, let's see how straight that was. Yeah. Nice first try. All right, try another one. Hold on a second.
What?
Look at what your cord's doing.
Oh.
Yeah. Jeez. Stop. You see this finger's right here?
Yeah.
That's going to be in the way so that when this is coming across, it's going to want to push it out. There you go. Much better, much better. So did you see how you were doing that, but you were looking at the blade so much, worried about trying to follow that line, you weren't paying attention to the shoe that was doing this. It wasn't following this, okay? So now if you look at this, if I hold this right up against it, that actually doesn't look too bad. All right? But if you look at this, do you see?
Yeah.
Look on this end. Do you see what's going on there?
Yeah.
It's kind of, that's because this was kind of rocking like this. So watch me do it. I set it, then I set my fence right where I want it. I double check, make sure that's the line I want to take, okay? I'm just going to take just enough off to straighten that out, right? Now, watch. From the angle I'm doing right here, where I'm positioned, I can't even see the blade. If I keep it right up against that square, the square will act like a guide, like a fence. I never even looked at the blade once, did I? Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
He said, yeah.
Is that impressive or what? Are you impressed? Not bad for you, old man, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so we're coming down to the end. Just cut up this pressure treated one that had a lot of twist in it. Cut it into short pieces, mitered the ends so that I can screw it to the bottom. That way when the tarp's coming down here, I was going to put it just on the side, but I didn't want that edge there where the tarp was going to be rubbing. So by doing it this way on the underside and then just going off, I mean, I could have gotten fancy and I could have even cut the angle over here and screwed through this into that, but this will be fine. I staggered them. This one's on the far side and this one's on the near side. And it's pretty darn stiff. It's pretty strong. So I think this will work out just fine. Grind them and find them. Sun's going to be setting in about an hour, so we're going to get moving on this thing. We got it, the frame's pretty much done. I put the 3 braces in there. So as far as doing this, it's very strong, very rigid. And as far as downward force straight down on that, that's going to be plenty strong enough. Where it lacks stability is side to side. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take that really long 2x4 that I haven't used yet, and once we park it where I'm going to tarp it, I'm going to anchor the 2x4 up near the top of one of the supports, and then I'm going to put a stake in the ground and attach it to the stake. Hopefully the ground's not too frozen. All right, so there's the tarp installed, and it ended up working out better than I thought, actually, because it overhangs enough in the front so I could double it up, and then I wrapped it. I got a strap going underneath in the front, I got a strap going underneath in the middle, and I got one in the back, ratchet straps. I'll probably just get some nylon rope and thread it through some of these and put some stakes to the ground. I kind of abandoned the idea of putting that other board in and anchoring it, because it actually seems like it's pretty stable. And with it being this tall, that creates a very steep side. So I think it's going to want to shed a lot of the rain and the snow. So we'll see. After the first storm, which hits this weekend, is supposed to dump anywhere from 6 to 12 inches. We'll take a look at it and see how it's faring. And if I see any signs of trouble, then I'll reevaluate. I'm walking in a winter wonderland. Do, do. Do, 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 do. So that doesn't look like much snow, does it? Nope. Oh, this big storm we were supposed to be so scared of. But actually it was more snow than that. But what happened was we had to change over to freezing rain and then just plain rain, and that made the snow heavy. And then we had a temperature dive. Yesterday, I woke up, it was 2 below. And I forgot what that was with the wind chill, something like 10 below. And then this morning, I woke up and it was 2 above, so a little bit of an improvement. And it did get into the high 20s today. And then tomorrow, we're supposed to get into the high 30s, low 40s. And then Thursday, it's crazy. They're saying we may reach a high of like high 40s, something like that. So that is just typical whacked out New England weather. Full snow cover on the roof, and this snow is now all, it's got that big frozen crust on it. So anyways, let's take a walk down the street and take a look at our shelter. Well, it's still standing. Yep, it's performing exactly as I predicted it would. That little steep sides that I put in there by having that beam so high up basically creates a situation that everything just wants to shed off of there. So you can see there's a little bit of a drift on the edge there, and I predict that by the time winter is over, I predict we'll have such a large snow drift here it will actually act to kind of closing that whole under area there even. But I mean, this was not a very big storm, but we did have some wind that was associated with this, so I think it held up pretty well. Now we have several companies around here that I could actually trailer the boat to and pay a fee, and they would seal the whole top of the boat with that shrink wrap type of plastic to winterize the boat. And many of you may wonder why I didn't bother doing that. Well, I could have done that. The thing is, that's a one-shot deal. You get it done, and then it's tight for the whole season, provided nothing damages it. But then, at the end of the season, you cut all that off. You got to dispose of it. It ends up being a waste. And then the following season, you got to do it all over again. Whereas this, albeit the wood's not pressure treated or anything special, and it's not the greatest construction, but I could theoretically squeeze more than one winter out of this, depending on how kind the winters are. All right, so that's going to be a wrap. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Peter, come pick this up.
What?
It shouldn't be here.
No. I thought you were talking about that.
Well, I don't need the tractor now. move the boat with the four-wheeler, but figured since I charged the battery, we'd try cold start.
Move that little.
All right, check the battery connection. No problem. Yeah, I don't know. So this just has much better compression than the Oliver, I guess. The Oliver is tired.